Welcome to the Mind Body Business Show. The 3 keys to your success is just moments away. Here's your host, Brian Kelly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mind Body Business Show. I am so glad you could join us. Thank you for coming on. We have a wonderful, amazing, tremendous, stupendous guest coming on. Jasmin Terrany will be joining us in just a moment, I promise. But before we jump into that, the Mind Body Business Show, what is that all about? Well, first, it's mind, which is mindset. What I found was in my course of studying successful people was they had 3 traits that were common to each of them. And that was they had mastered 3 areas: the mind, the body, and business. Mind being mindset, as mentioned just a moment ago, that is having a rock solid, very positive and flexible mindset. And there are different ways to achieve that through different skill sets. And we may or may not cover some of that. I'm thinking probably we will, just because of our wonderful, amazing guest expert. And then there's body. That is about literally taking care of yourself physically. And that's by doing physical exercise. It's by also taking care of yourself with nutrition. And I like to say this because many gentlemen out there think that in order to be physically fit, they must look like a bodybuilder, like Arnold of days gone by. And that couldn't be any further from the truth, because that takes a lifestyle to achieve that kind of look. It's not about look, it's about feel. It's how are you feeling and how do you make yourself feel better? And that is just by moving, by exercising. You don't have to have 6-pack abs or bulging biceps to feel good. Just keep moving. And then nutrition, of course, eat and drink those things that serve you, that serve your mind and your body, because the mind and body are a team. And more importantly, the mind and body are your team. And if either or any member of a team is not pulling their weight, so to speak, guess what happens to the team as a whole? Well, you guessed it, it suffers a little bit. So those that are successful have mastered mind and body. And then we move into that very multifaceted concept of business. And we're talking about sales, marketing, team building, systematizing. The list goes on and on, scaling, everything that goes into building, maintaining, and growing a business. And there are many, many skill sets involved in that. And the good news is you personally don't need to master every single one. The only thing you need to do is get good at delegating and finding those who are and bringing them into your team as they become a necessity. And so that's what the Mind Body Business Show is all about. We cover areas in these topics. Sometimes we go off and talk about other additional topics. It's all about the entrepreneurial spirit and bringing you value. And I'm really excited about doing that. And so another thing that really rings true with many successful people, I know very few that don't do this, is most successful people are also quite avid readers. And with that, I'd like to segue into a really quick segment I like to affectionately call Bookmarks.
Bookmarks. Born to read. Bookmarks. Ready, steady, read. Bookmarks. Brought to you by reachyourpeaklibrary.com.
Yes, Reach Your Peak Library. You see it right there on the screen. That is a website that I personally developed with you in mind. And by the way, while you're watching this show or listening to it afterward on a recording, be sure to just take notes. Get out a pad of paper and take down notes, or do it on your computer, tablet, your phone, whatever your preferred method is, because the magic happens in the room. And I would really not like for you to miss any nuggets that Jasmin is going to bring with her when we bring her on, which is in just moments from now. So stay with us rather than going off and looking at websites and perusing other things while you're listening. No multitasking. Focus completely and you will get the most out of this show. I kid you not. So Reach Your Peak Library, that is a website that I threw together that I started compiling a list of all the books that I've read that have had impact on me in a positive way, whether it be business or personal development, whether it be, in mind or body or business, in any of the 3. And so I compiled a list that actually, met the grade, so to speak. And I have personally vetted these books. This site is there for you. You can go there. All of these go to Amazon to get your book. They just go link to an Amazon link and you can grab your book. So what I would recommend is just pick a book. The first one that jumps off the page, there's no need to go sifting through. There's 40 plus in here. The first one, just get in the habit of making fast decisions. That's another thing, a trait of successful entrepreneurs. Grab the book, read it, come back, find another one and read it and keep moving. It's amazing. And the thing is, I didn't used to read. Going back not too long ago, probably 7-8 years ago, I rarely read anything. And then I began reading voraciously after I got some great advice. And as a result, my life and my business have changed. And so I just wanted to throw that out there that if you want to be successful and you want to get there quicker, then start reading books that are meaningful, that will propel you forward in whatever it is that you wish to be propelled forward in. That was a tongue twister right there. All right. And speaking of successful people, you know what time it is? It is time to bring on our guest expert. Here we go.
It's time for the Guest Expert Spotlight. Savvy, skillful, professional, adept, trained, big league, qualified.
And there she is, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Jasmin Terrany. How are you doing this evening? All right. This is going to be amazing. I've got to get to know this young lady for the past at least 15 to 20 minutes.
Yes, we're old friends.
It's all right. We go way back, way back. Oh, man, it's like my sister by another mister. I tell you, she's just been that kind of person for me. And she's an amazing young lady, and I can't wait to dive deep. Before I formally bring you on, Jasmin, if you don't mind, I'll just give people a brief overview of you and your accomplishments and your experience. Would that be cool?
Sure, of course.
Right on. Jasmin Terrany is a life therapist, and she helps high achievers to be successful in their personal lives too. She holds 2 master's degrees from Columbia University and is the inventor of life therapy. And that is a combination of psychotherapy and coaching plus mindfulness and meditation. I love this already. It's right down my alley of interest. In virtual private practice since 2007, that right there is gold too. I hope you're listening and taking notes. Even on her bio, this is amazing. Jasmin specializes in relationships, anxiety, confidence, body image, and parenting. That covers a lot, and that's because she knows how to do it. Jasmin has published 2 books that have been featured on, check this out, CNN, PBS, CBS, Parents Magazine, but wait, there's more, Bustle Magazine, and she has hosted her own advice show on Grant Cardone TV. You got it, Uncle Grant himself, GC, the man. Most importantly, she is a dedicated wife and mama to her precious children, Liv and Zen. All right, with that, finally, formally, I would like to welcome Jasmin to the stage. Welcome to the show, Jasmin. How are you doing today?
Super great. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. And she comes to us all the way from Miami, Florida. I'm personally in Los Angeles area of California, so we're going coast to coast with this one.
Yes, we are. It's amazing. Technology really is unbelievable. Right?
Isn't it amazing? It's such a great time to be alive. I kid you not. And I am a total geek, so I've seen a lot. I'm not a young buck either, so I've seen a lot.
Yeah, you called me a young woman. I liked it.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, so that showed a lot. That tells me a lot about you, Jasmin, without even having to meet you. I mean, I saw this before you came on, before I met you on camera. And I thought, wow, I can't wait to interview this young lady. And the thing is that's phenomenal. I mean, my gosh, you've achieved a lot, and you've gotten a lot of accolades, and you've got a lot of exposure. And with that typically comes success. And the thing is there's more to it for those watching. There's more to it than just the mechanics of doing things to become successful. And what I'm leading into is the mind. All the things we just mentioned about you, Jasmin, were kind of on the surface level, what things you've achieved in the physical realm, but there's a lot going on under the hood, so to speak, in here in your noggin that got you to that level of success. And that's what I'm always curious about, because that's really where everyone's success or failure stems from. And so what I wanted to ask you is what is that thing for you that keeps your mind positive? So you're getting up in the morning, you might be a little groggy, you swivel around, your feet hit the floor, you start coming to, and then the drive starts to kick in. You become completely aware and conscious of your environment. You're like, all right, it's another day. I'm going to move on. So what is that one thing, if you can think of one thing, that drives you to hit the day running? And then how do you maintain it throughout not just a day, but weeks and months and going on?
Well, I'm actually going to challenge the question.
Oh, I love it.
You're good? All right. Because I am actually not quite a proponent of positive thinking, in that I think that is one-sided and that it avoids a huge part of our humanness, which is our pain and which is our emotions and which is the darkness and which is all those challenging feelings. So I actually have a theory that if you have a glass, hold on, and if you look at it, some people are trying to be positive, right? To be in the half full part. And other people get stuck in the negative, right? The half empty. And you've got your positive, your optimists and your, optimists and pessimists.
Yes.
But what I try to do and what I try to teach my clients is that the goal isn't to be positive. The goal is to become the glass. The goal is to become the space that allows your duality to exist simultaneously, and learning the skills to actually embrace, take care of, heal, soothe the darkness and the pain, so that you do feel more positive, you do feel more energetic and full, but it's not an avoidance mechanism. It's not like a get out of here negativity, I have to be positive, like grin and bear it kind of thing. So it's a much more holistic, energetic acceptance of oneself.
I love that. I absolutely love that angle, because let's face it, there is nobody on this planet that is 100% positive all the time.
No, not at all.
And it's impossible. And that can create stress in its own right. If you think, oh, I'm not positive enough, I'm going through a bad time, that could actually have a negative effect on you to think I'm not making the grade.
Well, and I think that's the point, is that, you look at the planet, and the planet it's not always a sunny day. Sometimes it's stormy. Sometimes there's a tsunami, and that's the perfection. That's the balance of it. And all of the darkness, all of the stormy weather inside of us is part of our perfection and our wholeness. And that's where the good stuff is. That's where the learning happens. That's where the growing happens. And I think that we live in a society that's really addicted to, like, gotta be go, like team no sleep, like, but there's a big pushing away and a not dealing with this whole other part of our humanness that's really beautiful and perfect and needs some attention.
Wonderfully stated. I love this. It's so important to know that there are two sides, and it's okay to have both. They do happen. There's no avoiding it. And the important thing I've learned, when the negative part comes, that what I call a negative part, the things you don't want to happen that do happen, inevitably, there's always something that's going to happen that you're not prepared for, that you're not happy with, that you don't like. And the key is to becoming flexible and how you react to that situation. You can't avoid the situation, but you can change how you react to it. What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that the idea of having not just flexible, but like a growth mindset, the idea of whatever happens is because it's for my upliftment. It's happening for me. Like, as much as it sucks and it's painful and it's horrible, like, somewhere there's a gift here. And to me, you talk about mind, body, business, but I think there's a soul component in there, like a trust that there's a bigger picture going on and that everything's happening. And if you're looking for the reasons and you're choosing to see it as such, then you have so many opportunities to evolve.
Yeah, I love that. And I often say, when I hear, or I'll even say it too, like, such and such happened to me, and I'd rephrase it and reframe it and say, no, that happened for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't care for it, but it's there for a reason. I'm going to learn something from it.
Right.
And so totally relate with all of this. It's obvious to me, at least looking at you on the screen, that you are physically fit. You look like you've got it all put together, and that's and that's amazing. And, being a mom yourself, I know that can be a difficult thing, especially I think women are amazing. You are all amazing. I have no idea how you do what you do.
It's crazy. It's a lot. Women are really superheroes. No,
you are.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. No argument at all here. I have a wife. She bore two of our children. We raised them. She raised them, really. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
They're 25 and 23 at the time of this. Yeah.
And why do you call me young? I didn't expect you to be having 20-something-year-old children.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love them. Oh, my gosh. So blessed. But, to juggle that and a career, and then, just to have kids and keep the household in order if that's what part of your duties are. That's just a huge undertaking, a lot of stress. So kudos to you for doing that, for bringing children into the world and taking care of them and sustaining a successful entrepreneur-based business. It's phenomenal. It's massive props to you.
Thank you. I mean, it's not by accident. It takes a lot of intention and work, and it's always a balancing act. I was talking to a girlfriend today about it, who we were just literally saying, this is kind of the biggest challenge that I face currently and I'm working on, and as part of my business also, is how to be successful at home and to be successful in your business, right? Is like I being successful, quote unquote, and making money and saving the world at the expense of being present to my children and having a healthy relationship with my husband and having friendships and having like a solid personal life, to me doesn't feel like success. And so my real goal for myself and everybody that I support is how to be successful at home too, right? How to actually make your home life, your relationships, the connections and your presence and the quality of your world as good as it can be.
Yeah, it's like, what is success at business worth if you don't have it at home?
Exactly. It's not worth
me. Home drives my desire to be successful at business. It's not the other way around for me. And it is for most people, but my why, you go through your why. What would you crawl over a mile of broken glass? Who or what would you do that for? No matter what, and just keep going, no matter what came your way. And for me, it's always, I've gone through an exercise on this several times. It's always been my wife every single time.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, we're high school sweethearts. We married out of college. We went to college and got married right out of college. And just, I can't be more blessed. And that's my why. That doesn't mean it's anyone else's why, that their spouse or their significant other, and that's okay. It's just important to know what that why is, because if you don't have that why, or if you haven't identified it, everyone has one. Then that would be a good thing to do, because it keeps you going through the thick and thin, more often the thin, where things are a little rougher. Yeah. So that's just from life lesson is, for me, I will do anything. That's the whole reason I do everything I do that I'm on the show right now. This all leads to my why, which is a better life with my wife. Happy wife, happy life, but
right.
It's happy couple, happy life, right?
But also understanding her needs, right? So you could think that doing this is for her, and she's like, well, you never spend any time with me because you're off doing this thing. And you're like, what? So really understanding what your people actually need is also different than doing things for them that they don't actually want.
Yes, thank you. It's all communication.
Yeah, big time.
When it comes down to it, that's like the number one reason any relationship fails is lack of communication.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not just talking for talk's sake. It's communicating and discussing those things you were just saying. It's like, look, I just want you to know the reason I'm doing this. And so if I've done this, Jasmin, I went way off the deep end. This is almost 30 years ago, where I ended up working myself into oblivion. And I distanced myself and completely, I can't think of the right word, but I completely alienated my wife and my kids because I was doing nothing but work. I mean, from sun up to sundown. Often I wouldn't come down to dinner because I just had to keep pushing. And thankfully, she communicated to me.
Yeah.
She told me, hey, this ain't working. I said,
right.
And I said, thank you for telling me that. It didn't feel good. You never want to have that.
No.
The ego has to get out of there if you want the relationship to thrive. And she means way more to me than what was going on then. I was like, okay, I'm going to right this ship. Just give me some time and I'm working on it. And help me to help you.
And I think also my husband loves the idea of like having things on the calendar, like something to travel or some new experience to have. And I think similarly, because it makes him more efficient. And when you have certain family commitments that you've committed to, then it also helps you be more efficient in all the business stuff. Because yes, being with my kids, I see it as like if you have back to a different glass, but if you have your time as a glass, that you have if you had a glass and you had to put in rocks and pebbles and sand, right? In order to fit them all in, you have to put in the rocks first, and then the pebbles, and then the sand, right? And so the important thing is to realize, what are my rocks and how do I put them in my life and in my schedule first before anything else, and then fill in the rest of my time with the other things, right? So if you put in, it sounds like you're putting in your work, which was the sand, and you're missing the rocks, and there's no room left for those rocks. So the only way for those rocks to fit in there is if they go in first, and then you build your life around those.
Yeah, it's a perfect analogy. And, having young kids as you do, Jasmin, that's a tough thing for a relationship. I don't care how strong your relationship is.
It's tough.
Because now it's not just you and him, it's them, then him.
Yeah. Well,
right?
And it's trying to figure out how to put them all on the same playing field. Like my parents put the kids before their relationship. So I think their relationship suffered because they put us first, and they did that because my mom's parents put the parents before the kids. So she always felt like she was second class citizens to her parents. So she didn't want us to feel that way. So she put us before their relationship. So like, as the third generation of witnessing this, I'm trying to figure out, how do I make my husband feel as important as I'm trying to make my kids feel? And it's a lot of work, and it takes real intention to have to put that all in your calendar. Yeah,
it does. There's no doubt about it. Having been through it myself, and being the man, and the woman just has that special tight bond with the kids that is, you carried them. You're in their body. I mean, come on, that's awesome. And then when they are now part of the world, and we see the wife spending time, it could be any amount of time with them. Before there was no them, and it was all the time was spent with me. Now you're thinking, well, hey, I'm not too cool with this. All this stuff. I love that. I'm so happy to have the child, but
no, it can cause, you're missing your woman, you're missing your best friend, and she doesn't and she's annoyed at you, and she doesn't want to touch you because she's been touching, people are touching her all day. Like, get off me. I don't need anybody touching me,
Yeah.
I did a like an advice video on this one, but this idea of how to essentially clarify, like, the reason that dating was so much easier than being married or married with children is because you also had time for yourself.
Oh.
And understanding, like, at the end of the day, one of our biggest challenges is, at the end of the day, I kind of need like a half hour to do some things for myself, get on the computer, like deal with like loose ends. And he's like sitting around waiting for me to come hang out with him. And to me, it's annoying because I'm not ready for you yet, And so we've just even recently established, like, don't expect me to be available to you until I get this half hour of this time for myself, and understanding, because when you're looking for somebody who's not available to you, it creates a lot of conflict.
Yeah, and that's really good that you set that guideline up. I think it was Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, the book about the man cave on the other side of the fence. So it's very similar to what you're saying now, is I got to have some downtime alone, and that will do nothing but help our relationship.
Yes.
Even though it seems like it's the opposite. It's like, why do you want to be alone? It's because I need to just
to recoup and to refuel. Yeah. And I think the clearer that people are about what their actual needs are, the better they are at articulating it. I was having a client the other day who was like, I don't want to have to tell you. I'm like, well, sorry, like, I don't have to tell me, but tell his partner, but sorry, like, if you want somebody, they can't read your mind, and you can't get pissed at them for not reading your mind,
Exactly.
Like, unless you're able to articulate it, then you can't expect them to know.
That's right. And like we said in the beginning, it's all about communication, and it's effective communication would be a better way to say it, is to ensure that whatever message you are trying to portray actually was received as the way you wanted it to get out. Because oftentimes we'll say one thing and we know what we mean, and they're going to hear something completely different. And you're like, hey, I just said, no, you didn't. You said, I said, no, I didn't. Anyway.
I like to think of it, before we switch out, I like to think of it as like a communication as a bridge, that you're both on one side and the other, two different sides of the bridge. And oftentimes people are like throwing like coins from the opposite sides of the bridge, saying, well, this is what I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. And the idea of real communication and effective communication is to go to their side of the bridge, hang out with them on their side of the bridge, and make sure you understand and make sure that they feel understood, and then invite them. Would you like to come over to see my perspective now? You don't give your perspective until they feel understood. And if you have two people who are focusing on understanding, more than trying to be understood, then it starts to work, because both people are being generous and both people want to actually understand each other.
Yeah, I like that. And that's like taking responsibility for the communication to be effective. And, something I learned in business circles that bridges over to relationships, because look, when it gets down to it, what is business? It's a relationship. Yeah. Exactly. There's really not a lot of difference. No. And the cool thing is, if you take ownership, if you are at cause for the conversation, and if you take responsibility, say it's my responsibility for that person to understand what I'm saying, and it's my responsibility to listen and understand what they are saying. And if there is a miss,
it's my problem.
Yeah, if there's something wrong, then it's up to me to figure it out. And if everyone were to do that just a little bit, then things would be a lot easier. And I found that was very effective leading my team.
Yeah.
Many times I'd give what I thought were detailed instructions and step by step, and then they'd come back with a different result. And I go, okay, I missed something somewhere. I never go, what the heck are you doing? I just told you. It's like, or I'll say, okay, where did I go wrong? What did I miss? What detail am I missing? Because I want to improve. And then I'll create a training video that hits all the points, and we'll never have to do that again.
My husband loves the term clarify and verify. I don't know where he got that from, but you clarify that it's understood, and then you verify that it was done, so that you're always getting on the same wavelength.
That's very cool. You guys make a great team. I tell you, I haven't even met them, but I can tell you guys are an awesome team.
You're the best.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Just even that you're just saying that. Not all women do that, and will hold their guy up high on a pedestal. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a important skill, I think, in general, is to not emasculate your man, and to understand that in order for him to be your hero, you have to let him and encourage him, because otherwise, if you're always emasculating him and bringing him down, then you're not going to get the guy that you want.
And that goes both ways. And I want to talk to the men about that. And specifically when your woman isn't in the huddle, so to speak, and it's a bunch of guys. I can't tell you how many times I've been in those situations, going decades back up till recently, where the guys would be doing that and talking mess about their woman in front of other men. Funny, Yeah. And I would never engage. I'm looking at him going, do you love her?
Right.
Why would you say anything about her like this outside of your house? If you have something that you got a problem, and they're doing it to make a joke and to get a laugh, but
no.
So I'm like, man, no way. I mean, no, I'm not going to do that outside. No, that's ridiculous.
I think we also, as a society, are in the habit, we want to connect with other people, and people gossip and people do the drama thing. And did you hear, and blah, blah, because they want to make a connection with the person that they're talking to. So by saying something bad about somebody else, you and I get to feel closer. And it takes a real skill set and a real intention to find a way to connect with another person that doesn't involve anybody else or any other topics or anything, but as an actual sharing of oneself with another person, versus having it to be about something else or another topic that we both agree on.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. It's just focusing on the other individual and nothing else. Just, man, that's
how are you? How are you?
Yeah, and mean it, right?
I mean it. Sincerely.
How's it going? I don't care. I don't
care. I don't hear what you said.
It's just to open up the conversation so I can tell you about Joe and Fred and Mary.
Right.
Right on. So you are obviously an entrepreneur. You're a successful entrepreneur. You've got some great past accolades and accomplishments and still going. And so I know that, you've reached this great level of success. So now everything's on autopilot, right? And you just get to hang out in your hammock in Miami somewhere with your umbrella drink, and then just take the sales calls as they come rolling in, and another one's closed. Let's go to the next, right? It's that easy, huh?
Obviously, yes.
No, yes, we all know it's not. And it just gets, people think they'll hire you, elevate in that realm of whatever you call success. But as your company grows, as your business grows, you're making more money, you're scaling, you're serving more people. A lot of people think it gets easier as you go, and it could be nothing could be farther from the truth. It gets more difficult. You become more flexible. You're able to handle those events because you've grown into it over time. And so for you, being a family woman, Jasmin, I can only imagine going through that and still now on the rise and going up. How does that, affect your family life, being an entrepreneur? How do you juggle that?
I've been really focusing on transitions, like having like work brain on and then family brain on, and knowing that those are two very like different parts of myself, and that I need to clarify the transition time in my own head and in my own process, in my calendar, or however I can do it, so that when it's work time, I'm in work mode, and then when it's family time, I'm in family mode, and that I have an actual transition to make that clear to myself. Because and I'm guilty of it, but the like the phone and the distractions and I got to just do this one thing. Your mind is always like going on to that thing that you think is so important, and in the grand scheme of things, it's not, relative to the quality of my presence with my children and my partner. And so that's my biggest battle, within myself, is trying to be as present and conscious and attentive to the people that I love most when my mind wants to go and save the world.
Yeah, I totally agree with that one. And so just so everyone out there understands, we have an expert in this field who herself goes through these struggles, because she's a human being, ladies and gentlemen, just like everyone else. She just has the tools and knowledge of how to handle it. You can tell that she has put a lot of time and effort into this because it means a lot to her. Oftentimes you find that people that aren't successful at whatever arena of their life, it could be one facet, the only reason they aren't is because they did not make it a priority. And I can see that Jasmin has made her family a huge priority. And that's why she's not only a successful wife and mom, but also a business person as well. So she's got it all. She's got it all.
No, but I think that's the point. And that's what I had to practice what I preach, right? Is that I help my primary clientele are high achievers, people who are super successful professionally, and I help them be successful in their personal lives, because it's two different parts of yourself, right? It's to be successful professionally. It's your mind, it's logic, it's goals, it's focus, it's like pushing, and it's like organizing, and all these kind of like rigid and maybe not rigid, you want to be flexible, but there's like, it's all logic driven and mind and a little masculine energy. Whereas the personal life is a completely different side of yourself. And if you've been successful professionally, using those skills personally doesn't often work, because it's a different skill set. So it's bringing in that softer side, that emotional side, the spiritual side, that openness and the sharing and the breathing and the real connecting, which is different. And so when you're so used to being on, turning that off and like putting on a different hat and being in a different part of yourself takes work and effort and clarity. Absolutely. And I really honed in on what you said in the beginning of that, was practice what you preach. You have to practice. If you're a psychotherapist, as Jasmin is, you've got to have your mind in order, and the skills and skill sets that she has learned, she puts into practice for herself, on herself, and her family. And it's funny you say that, because I wanted to plead to all entrepreneurs out there to do the same thing, and that is to practice what you preach. What do you do? Well, I am a digital ad expert. I know how to grow Facebook following on my pages to 20,000 in 6 months. Great. What's your page? Right? And you go look and you see 225. I'm like, wait a minute. Right. Why would I go? So I've just seen that so much, Jasmin. I wanted to throw that out there. And I do think that's kind of the biggest challenge this day and age, is that we've all got our social media image of who we are, and we've all got like the idea of who we are. And I was thinking about this yesterday. It's like, I don't have anybody with a camera watching me talk to my children or have a conversation with my husband or what's going on at home. And so it's so much easier to let that be less ideal. right? But ultimately, like, you have to be your own camera. I've been thinking a lot about this idea, like with my kids. You know how sometimes you see parents with their kids and you kind of just feel bad for their kids for whatever reason, like the parents on the phone, or the way that they talk to them, or like some variation of, like, you see something and you see that that kid is suffering in some way because their parents not aware of them.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to see my kids from that light. Like, if someone's looking at me or my relationship and they're like looking at them, like, what is that mother missing that that kid requires or that husband needs that they're not getting, you know? And how do I get myself out of my own experience of it and my own ego of it or my own needs of it, and see what it is that they truly need, you know? And I see that as my role in my own spiritual, emotional, inner work is to fill myself up enough so that I can just be a vessel of love for them, and just be someone who can give. But that takes a lot of work on myself to be able to have that.
Well, I think
I don't know.
you have a trait that is common amongst successful entrepreneurs, and that is you look first to serve others. It doesn't mean you're neglecting yourself. That's not what I mean by that. But you are looking to serve others at all times, and that includes your family. And that's how one becomes successful in my personal opinion, in entrepreneurship and in relationship, is to think more about the other side versus yourself all the time. Instead of
what I need.
Yeah. How can I make more money? Well, how can I serve them more? Because when I do serve them more, I will get that reward back manyfold, more than I ever dreamed if I just made it all about me.
Yeah, you're really good at that too, in terms of really wanting to create value for all your listeners or viewers.
Yeah. And listeners. Yeah. This is also repurposed on podcasts. You see on the bottom underneath my mug there. And we send this out far and wide because I love the messages. I've been doing this for over a year on this particular show. I had another show before that for 2 years. And I just love being able to have people like you on that provide such incredible value in so many different facets and experience space. Yeah. And I love mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset's one of my faves. And so, about that, in the beginning, introduced you as a life therapist. I'm not sure I'm familiar with that term. What is a life therapist, and what tell me about you and your business and what you do, and
sure.
what a life therapist is.
Yeah. So I invented the terminology of life therapy, which essentially combines traditional psychotherapy and coaching with more Eastern practices like mindfulness and meditation. And so the psychotherapy part is really about understanding, like, your mind, right? It's all about the mind and feelings, but it's the understanding of why I think and feel the way that I do. And the coaching is getting clear of where do I want to go? How do I want to get there? And then the spirituality part, the mindfulness and the meditation, is actually developing the tools and the skills to attend to whatever's going on inside of you. I'm a firm believer that if you can handle your feelings, you can handle anything, because our life is essentially it's all of our reactions to our situations. Unless there's a bomb dropping on your head and you're really in like a serious situation, most of our challenges are that there's situations and then we have reactions to them. And if we can't handle our reactions and we can't handle our feelings, then everything's harder. But if we can handle ourselves, then relationships get easier and situations get easier and communication gets easier. Everything becomes easier because you can handle what's going on inside yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And handling your feelings, another word is emotions, right? And the more you can react, it's how you react to your emotions and control them, especially if it's on the other side, the anger or the guilt or the sadness parts of the emotion.
But I'm going to stop you. But the control is the problem, right? Because you think you can control them. Ultimately, it's learning how to become a loving parent to your pain. It's learning how to take care of them and love them and soothe them and be kind to them so that you can release them in like a deep, true way, instead of just controlling them and like putting a top on a pot that's going to boil over. That's a temporary solution, right? So the idea is to do the deeper work, which is to really get to the core and find solutions to actually learn how to release. Sorry.
No, please. You're the expert in this arena. I love it. I love to learn. And that's another thing I often teach, even to my team, is the faster you can throw your ego aside, the
Yeah.
quicker you are going to advance. And, I'm a guy, and guys are typically egotistical, more so than women. I would, just from life experience, that's where all the place that's coming from. And for me, it was, I was always competitive in sports, and, the ego could always get in the way. I can do this. I can do that. I can do anything I want. I got this, all that stuff.
Right.
And I learned by learning from a mentor of mine how to release that and get rid of my ego, and still work on it to this day. But the more I do that and back away and say, it's okay to let someone else shine. I don't need to be the end all be all. Like, we want to save the world. That's it. The guys want to save the world, especially when it comes to their woman. We just want to be everything to them. But it's another fine. You got to just step back, allow others to take care of things. You don't have to do everything, and you'll be liberated beyond your wildest dreams, because
and you don't have to know everything. I think there's something really powerful in not wanting to be the smartest person in the room. It's like, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room, because why would I want that? I want to be around people who I can learn from and who I can grow from and who can make me evolve.
That's a perfect way to put it. I mean, if you want to be around people you can learn from, and that means you have to be open to learning to even want to do that. And so that's great. That's a perfect way to frame it to people. Is like, if you are the smartest person in the room and you're holding a mastermind event, you need to get out of that one and get into one where you're not.
Right.
And learn from other people who have succeeded higher at whatever your definition of success is that you wish to strive to. Find somebody who has what you want.
Well, and I think that's interesting also too, is because sometimes, some people are a jack of all trades. Some people are really good in one or two specific areas, and understanding that I might be particularly confident in one area, but it doesn't mean that I'm confident in every area. And sometimes that can be uncomfortable, because we'll only stick into the area that we're really good at, and we naturally gravitate towards, and we want to keep getting stronger and stronger in that area. And so it's like it's an interesting dance of the idea of furthering your expertise and like really staying in your lane, versus the interest in going into other lanes and being a beginner and not knowing anything and having that humility to not have a clue.
Yeah, I like to call that one the comfort zone. It's, wanting to stick in the comfort zone. And that's the other thing for everyone watching and listening. If you've never heard anything about that, is, the power of getting out of your comfort zone, not just once or twice, but constantly, continually, every single day, as many times as you can, and do things that you're not comfortable doing, but will have some positive effect on you moving forward. So it's not just to do it to be uncomfortable. That's going to be sure about that, but it's something that is going to propel you further forward rather than backward, because it's like, it's do something even when it's out of your comfort zone. Because if you're in a ship and you're in the water and you're not moving, can you steer it? Can you change course? The answer is no, for anyone that's asking that question, because there's no way to steer it. You're not moving. But if you're moving, you could be moving in the wrong direction when you first start out. And often you will be, because of how you parked or how you came up into the harbor, et cetera. But then when you start moving, once you're moving, can you then change directions of that ship and right it and turn it toward your end goal, your end result, your destination? Answer is yes. And you might waver back and forth here and to and fro as you get there, but ultimately you can keep steering it as long as you're moving. And the only way you can move is taking action and getting out of your comfort zone, in my humble opinion.
Which isn't easy to do. I'm not great at it. I'm working on it.
You used to not be great at it, didn't you?
Yeah. Not great at it yet.
That's right. That's right. Fantastic. My goodness. This is phenomenal. So a lot of entrepreneurs, I was one of them, we're talking about emotions, and that's why I wanted to bring this up. Emotions, one of the most gripping, powerful emotions that will keep a person from getting to the other side, which means to that side of success, toward their success, is the emotion known as fear. And so another way I like to frame fear for the purpose of this discussion is hesitance, resistance, not the like Halloween type fear, because we're coming up on Halloween, but the fear of, failure, the fear of what people will think of me, those little fears that cause the hesitations and resistance from us going forward. In light of that kind of fear, what would you say, Jasmin, is your greatest fear to date? And then how do you manage it?
That's a good question. I think the fear that I grapple with most these days, there's a few. One is like letting my ego lead my decisions and getting caught up in kind of significance, versus like real, true soul calling and distinguishing the difference between those. Another one is the fear. I mean, I think that it's a woman fear, but the fear of, I don't want to call it failure, but the not being perfect. Like when you said, oh, you have it all together, it's like, yeah, so that's the goal, right? But really the goal is the unconditional acceptance and the willingness to not have it all together and be okay that it's not all perfect and it's not all easy, and let it all be real and not have to always be in like a pretty package.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think those are kind of the fears, and I feel like I've had very distinct phases of my life that, when I was younger, a lot had to do with body image and my relationship with food and weight. And I had like an eating thing where I would overeat or I'd binge, and then I would restrict, and then I would exercise, and had like a lot of eating things. And I spent a lot of time really doing deep inner work along with my relationship with food, which actually made me realize that it was my relationship with my emotions that were really the issue. It had nothing to do with the food. It had to do with the fact that I wasn't dealing with feelings, right? Which is one of my books. But then I had a phase in my life where it was like all about relationships, trying to figure out how to find a significant other. What does that look like? This is the biggest decision of my life. How am I going to do it well? How am I going to choose the right person? And what does that look like? What do I need? And how does that go? And I spent, a lot of my deep inner work figuring out that part. And then it was building my private practice. These are like foundations that once I really felt solid in it, it's, you always come back to it and you're always tweaking, but like it's a solid part. And so then it was my private practice, and how do I, build a private practice and bring in my clients and what have you. And then it became like being a parent, right? And now all of these things are still like building on themselves. And I'm obviously still, my kids are still young. And so, but there's this kind of dance between being a parent and then this other kind of calling in me to really contribute to the world in a real way, and to feel like I'm adding value and essentially raising the vibration of consciousness on the planet, like that's what my soul is telling me I'm supposed to be doing, which I'm always feeling like I'm not doing anything when I'm sitting at home, like reading books with my kids, because there's a part of me that's telling me I'm supposed to be doing this other thing, And so I think a big fear is like, can I do both? Can I really do this parenting thing and do it well, but also have the time, energy, bandwidth to be able to listen to what my soul is telling me I'm supposed to be doing, So that's my challenge currently.
I love it. And, it's like you basically said, this is exactly what the journey of a human being is like, and then wrapped it up as, and this is how business works as well. You have to, it's a journey. It's not a sprint.
No.
To me, there's no finish line. And I hope there isn't. Because to me, if I were to cross the finish line and snap the tape, and that was the end of the race, then what is there left to look forward to? Right. In my mind? I'm like, gosh, that's it. I'm done. I'm just, I can't. And
moment too. It's shifting the expectations about, like, it's not about how many or how vast or how big. Like one of my favorite Instagram people that I follow has like 220 followers. She's like not a big deal, but she's so real and authentic and adds so much value. And you can tell that she's doing it just for the one person that it's going to resonate with. You know, the other day, a girl in my kid's class texted me like, oh, she took a picture of my book and sent it to me in like a text. And she's like, is this you? I was like, yeah. She's like, me and my husband read your book every night before bed. I didn't know this was you. I was like, oh my God. It's just like that one moment to realize, like, you know, it's not about the changing the world and some huge scale thing. It's more about really appreciating those moments where you're connecting with people.
Right. And it does truly happen one person at a time. You know, and that's how people grow to change the lives of more on a bigger scale, is starting out with one at a time and then going back to it on occasion, because, you know, it's all about the human connection and just making life better for others. And that's great to hear about, you know, people. That is, in my opinion, the way to grow your social media following, if that's one of your desires, and that is to be authentic and go after changing one person's life at a time. Whoever happens to be watching out of 200 people, I hope it helps you, you know, and just have that with your intention and your mindset.
And then you feel it's more easy to feel successful, right? Because then your bar for success of how you're determining what makes you feel successful that day is, you know, having some sincere giving in the moment, or something of that nature, something small that you can actually do.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to so many entrepreneurs on this show, and I found that the things that make every one of them the happiest is when they get a client who they had impact on in a positive way, when they had a breakthrough, or when they finally got that one client they couldn't get, but because they helped them. And it just, the joy was not because they got paid for helping them, but the joy was because they helped that person succeed and get to the next step and made them happy. And that's what I love about being amongst entrepreneurs like you, Jasmin, because it is so obvious to me that you're all about serving people. And that's amazing and wonderful. And the thing is, you care so deeply about that. I don't ever see you not succeeding. You'll have your bumps in the road. They always happen. We all have those. But, you know, it's like a stock market. You see that line and it's trending. But your trend line is going like this, like rocket ship. There might be peaks and valleys along the way, but the overall trend line, you're on fire. And, you know, none of us are perfect. We just want to be. And there's nothing wrong with striving to be, just knowing that no one will ever achieve perfection.
Or just that maybe that our imperfection is our perfection.
Exactly. I mean, that's how we were designed. Exactly. You're right. We're designed imperfectly. And I don't know. It's a lot of variety. If we were perfect, I don't know if there was.
No, I think that's why we evolve, right? Is that we have these parts of ourselves. I mean, I think that's the dance, right? Is that we have our minds who are like, not enough, not enough, not enough, not enough, not enough, right? And so that's what makes us amazing, because we're always growing and we're looking for problems to solve and we're making the world a better place and all those things, right? But it's also realizing that every time you're chasing that Pac-Man, not enough, not enough, not enough, not enough, you're never satisfied, right? So it's doing the awareness of like, you are enough, you're okay. And I'm calling that actually satisfied ambition, where you feel satisfied. You're starting from a point where you are enough, and that whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're working towards, isn't coming from the not enough voice. It's coming from the I'm satisfied, I'm full, I'm abundant, and therefore what else am I supposed to do with my life other than share and give and grow?
I love that. Satisfied ambition.
Yeah, you can use it.
I think you should trademark it.
I'm on it.
All right. Hey, one other thing I wanted to touch on, and I can tell that it's obvious to me how you go about your business, that you're in it for the long haul. You're in it to continually to grow it and to do it with integrity and to do it with other people in mind, and how can I make this better for them? And I have seen many do just the opposite, and they're just in it for the quick kill. Like, and I don't mean anything negative about this, but I often would find it in the network marketing arena, where folks would do anything and everything just to get that next recruit to make that money. Sometimes they'd be paid handsomely for that, and they would just churn and bring on people, recruit, and then not support a single person. And soon, I mean, they climb the ranks and be way up in the top of the business ranks and then crumble down because their foundation was built on sand. They didn't support anyone. So I know you're in the opposite camp. You're there for the long-term success. For those out there that are looking to achieve a long sustained amount of, business success, what is the best way, in your opinion, to do that, to achieve it and then sustain it going on even farther?
I actually just watched this thing with Simon Sinek. I saw one of your books in your book thing. I just watched an interview with him, and I really liked it. He's mentioned how he happened to speak at 2 different events, one for Apple and one for Microsoft within the same time frame. And he said how one thing that he noticed was that Microsoft, the whole topic was how to beat Apple. What are they doing? How are we going to beat them? And Apple's whole thing was, how do we innovate? How do we serve our people? How do we grow? And they had nothing to do with Microsoft. And it wasn't about the bottom line, and it wasn't about proving anything. It was all about how can we grow and give. And I think that ultimately, to feel like anything is worth doing, you have to have, I guess, your why, which would probably be back to his book, but to really understand that it's a long-term journey, and that we're always growing and we're always evolving, and that we're always in process. Like, we're never done. And so the idea that once I get there, then I will have arrived doesn't happen, because we always have that mind that's like, not enough, right? So the idea is, how do I get really comfortable in the process where I am, and to focus that moment and that experience and my satisfaction and the value that I'm bringing.
And I think one of the ways to help people to wrap their minds around that, at least it works for me, is to set smaller goals in front of you. And then when you achieve them, celebrate them. And then what's the next goal? And then move to that one. I've seen my own mentor. I watched as he grew his business and literally changed the entire direction of it. But it grew because he kept changing. He reached a goal and then said, well, there's this opportunity and I'm now ready for it. Before I wasn't, because now I have the skills because I grew. And it's just an never ending growth cycle. And that's what I love about it. It's never boring. That is for sure. Man, I'll tell you the things that happen. Today I celebrated what I call a success with my wife. And it was other people might think it's a small success, but celebrate the little victories as you go and live in the moment. Like Jasmin is so eloquently saying to you, much better than I am. And just enjoy life. I'm 55 now, and looking back, I don't look back and go, I wasted all those years because I was so not in the moment. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as that was my life experience that taught me to get to where I am now, where I am very happy with where I am. And that's, it's good now. Oh man, I'm happy. The kids are out of the house, Jasmin. This is one step. You're going to love raising them all the way through. You're going to love every minute of it. And then when that day comes and they leave the nest, you'll cry. I cried when they went to college. I'm a grown man and I was crying my eyes out. And then, but then when I got home and realized they're out of the nest, I get my wife back.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I did backflips of joy, and I have been doing since. We're traveling together. We're going on a cruise soon, and I get to have her to myself again, which it may seem like a self-indulgent, but
you missed her. Yeah, you get your wife and your own life. It's definitely, as amazing as it is to be a parent, it's a sacrifice for what you want. Definitely what you want doesn't come first anymore.
Yeah, that's true. But man, it's a fun ride right now. I'll tell you, it is really fun.
I love it. That's exciting.
And we still, we interact with our kids. Our son, he came and stayed the weekend, this past weekend. So it's not like they're gone forever. Never. They're never gone forever in my mind. They're always going to be our kids, and we'll love them dearly and support them. But it's just having that, knowing that I have dedicated time with her. We can plan things together now. And
I think also part of the entrepreneur, like the balance between the personal and professional, is that you want to keep your relationship with your significant other good enough so that once you get to that point, you still like each other. Yeah. To be building something so that when you get to that point, you have your own life and you have your own things and you have your own interests that you can put more time and energy into. I like the idea, like if you're right now I feel like my kids and my family are my forefront, and I'm like, just keep planting the seeds in my business. It's like I have certain things. My private practice is my foundation. That's my bread and butter. The books, like all the books and the courses and all these things that are kind of beyond my private practice. I'm just planting the seeds, and I keep watering them and keep watering them. And at some point, my kids are gonna not need me as much, and then these little things will start to grow. But the idea of understanding that you don't have to be all in on everything simultaneously, that like some things take turns.
I totally agree with that. It's kind of like your micro movements ultimately will create and become a macro movement. It's just it's like investing money. You're putting money in the bank and it's growing because your actions, they're not just getting you farther in your business, they're training your mind as well, that you say, oh, I'm just going a step further, another step further, another step further. Then you get more confident as you see results slowly trickle in. And I emphasize slowly.
Yeah, it's slowly. I remember, I started doing these like advice videos, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, and so then there's like 10 views and then 12 views. And then you like stop looking at it, like, who cares? And then you go back and all of them, there's like 50,000 views. You're like, whoa, that was like 7 years ago. And how did that happen? And it's just like planting those seeds and watering those seeds. Yes. And then it starts to grow, and understanding that it's not, if you're searching for instant gratification, you're always going to be frustrated.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, hey, we're at can you believe it? We're already.
That was a lot of good stuff. Man,
but there is one more question I love to ask each and every guest expert that comes on the show. And it's really cool because it's a different question. It sparks thought. Some people will they come up with the answer right away. Others give it some thought, and either way works fine. But I like to close the show with this because it's a very unique question. And here's the thing. There is no such thing as a wrong answer, Jasmin. None. It doesn't exist.
I'm not scared. It's okay.
And the opposite is exactly the truth. Is the only right answer is your answer, because it really is a personal question, even though it's not that kind of personal question, if you know what I mean. So are you ready?
Ready.
I can't wait to hear what Jasmin has to say about this. All right, Jasmin Terrany, how do you define success?
I define success by feeling like that there's nobody in my life that I feel incomplete with. That if I were to die tomorrow, that there are loose ends, that people don't know how I feel about them, that connections are, that somewhere there's loose ends with the people that I love most. And that my focus is really on making sure that I'm present to loving the people that I love, and that they feel it and that they know it. And that if I was gone tomorrow, that nobody would say, oh my God, I wish I would have had that conversation. I mean, we didn't even talk about this, but my mom died in a car accident in the last almost 5 years ago, almost. No, how long? Yeah, almost 5 years ago. And so I think that was one of the biggest lessons I got from that tragedy, was that she really lived in a way that was complete. Like, she was just there one day and gone the next day, and there was nothing left unsaid, nothing left undone, that every I was dotted, every T was crossed, and that every day she was making sure that she was complete.
Beautiful. And the wonderful thing about that question is, to date, and it's got to happen at some point, but up till now, to date, no two people have answered it the same way. Isn't that interesting?
Sure, right? Everyone's got a different.
I expected to come that there's got to be one coming up, and I'm okay with there not being one. If there never is, that's even better.
My brother always says there's more than one type of shampoo for a reason,
Yes. Yeah, and the other cool thing is there is not a single person who answered that question where their answer was money centric. One did say to make more money, but then clarified so that he could serve more people. I mean, the end result was always about other people. And every person, you specifically and big time, about other people, no loose ends. I want to make sure that people, focus on making sure that I'm loving people and that they know that I love them. And oh my gosh, that is a beautiful definition of success. It is yours. It's personal to you, but I love it. It's an amazing definition. Take a deep breath. So how can people get in touch with you? And I noticed that you have a gift to provide to our audience. So first, how can people get a hold of you? And then let's touch on your gift.
Sure. My website, jasminterrany.com, JASMIN with no E, TERRANY.com. Oh, it's right there. And yeah, free gift is if you're interested in perhaps working together individually, I will provide a free brief phone complimentary consultation. So you can call my answering people and set that up.
Cool. And do they call the number that's
set it up on my website too? Either way.
Yeah, is that the same number that's on your site, the 888?
Yeah. Either that number, or you could actually schedule it on my website.
All right, very good. Thank you so much for that. High value, and I just want to impart on those that are watching and listening that this is time. This is valuable time that Jasmin is offering you for nothing in return, no money. And so take it seriously. Take it as if you are paying a large sum of money for, because time is one thing none of us ever get back. And it's the greatest commodity we have. And so treat Jasmin with the respect she deserves, but also take her up on her offer. I'm not trying to scare you away. Please take her up on her offer.
Also, I have books. We didn't even talk about my books, but if I give you the link, or you can look me up on Amazon. I have one that's called Extraordinary You, Master Your Feelings, Master Your Life, which is all about learning how to be your own therapist. And it takes all the skills that I use. My sessions are kind of interested in working with me but can't afford it. It's really taking everything that I do in session so you can do it for yourself as a book. And there's also another book called Extraordinary Mommy, a loving guide to mastering life's most important job. And so if you know somebody, if you're a mommy or a new mommy, or you know someone who's pregnant, it's a great gift. And it's to really help us be able to love our kids the way that they deserve to be loved.
Oh, fantastic. Jasmin Terrany, thank you so very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful.
Oh, my goodness. And for all you that are watching and listening live, those that are coming on as a recording, we appreciate you. And that is it for this show. We are going to be back next week on another edition of the Mind Body Business Show. On behalf of the wonderful Jasmin Terrany, this is Brian Kelly, your host of the Mind Body Business Show, saying good night for now. We'll see you next time. Be blessed. Bye-bye now.
Thank you for watching and listening. This has been the Mind Body Business Show with Brian Kelly.